Bogle on lead guitar. How beautiful. Bob Bogleです。
Being together that long? Well, we're good friends, still good friends. And, so we have no problems getting along, you know. So it's been we have a lot of fun at it together, and a lot of camaraderie. So it's been a good situation. We're like brothers.
You know, I met Bob. I was selling used cars in Seattle. He came in to buy a car. That's how we met. And we talked back and forth, and yeah, I was a terrible salesman. I was too honest. He came in, and I talked to him, and I liked him. And he said, how about that car over there? And I said, no, you don't want that car. So I wasn't making much money. So I said to Bob, I said, what kind of work do you do? He says, well, I'm in the construction work. And I said, well, do you think you could get me a job where you work? And he said, yeah, I can try. So about a month later, he came in and said, I got you a job. And that's how we found out that each one of us knew a few chords on a guitar, just a few chords. And he knew a little bit of lead guitar. And so we bought 2 guitars in a pawn shop, you know, a pawn shop, used guitars. And I think they were probably about $10 a piece, very hard to play. And then we started playing for people's parties, and people really liked us. And they said, "Oh, you guys are different." And so, you know, we were in demand for people's parties because it was free anyway. But we'd play for anybody. We didn't care. We'd break out those guitars and start playing. And then we started rehearsing a lot and buying chord books of different chords. And we started playing things, not necessarily rock and roll, but, you know, like Stardust, the old Hoagie Carmichael song, and a lot of things like that. Because we grew up in the days of big bands, you know, Glenn Miller and people like that. You know, even after we came here in 1962, the very first time, we started writing songs for Japan. You know, we got the feel of what the Japanese people liked. And we started writing songs, and the first song we wrote was Kita Gune no Aoizora. That was one of the first songs we wrote. And then, of course, a lot of people don't know that we wrote those melodies. And then I think the next one was Futari no Ginza, and then Kyoto no Koi, then Ame no Mirosuji, then Kyoto Bojo, many, and they all went to #1 with singers in the Japanese language. So that helped our career here too, a lot. And that was more or less in the late 60s and early 70s.
First of all, we introduced the guitar over here, you know, and once, I don't know, the Japanese people is different than most places. When they become your fan, it's your fan for life. You know, it's like a relative, and you know, so I look at it like, if they're my, you know, they're loyal to me, now I'm their fans too. So that's why I keep coming back.
Well, he didn't really talk too much about the road, but he was gone quite a bit when I was young, and he always talked about music, and music was always in the house, and that's kind of how I learned how to play. You know, I wanted to be like my dad, you know, so I would play on boxes and pots and pans, and, you know, anything I could bang on, I would bang on, you know, just to make noise, you know, as a young kid. Just to fall into a situation where it just clicked like that. I mean, I grew up listening to my father and mimicking my father's style. I mean, that's how I learned. So my style was similar, or is similar to my father's.
So that's how we more or less started. And then Bob had an album of Chet Atkins called Hi-Fi in Focus. And it had a song in there called Walk, Don't Run. And we were pretty amateur at that time. And he played it almost jazz, you know, finger-style jazz. Well, we couldn't do that. But we loved the melody. So we thought, well, let's do our own arrangement. And that's how Walk, Don't Run came about. Actually, Bob started that.
Oh, yeah.
I did. He started doing that, and then, you know, we did Walk, Don't Run 64, and then I did it. So.
When we first started, after about 3 years, we had a record producer that was helping us produce the records, you know. And we told him that we felt like we were running out of ideas. And he said, well, one idea is to find more sounds in that guitar. He said, there's sounds in that guitar you've never found yet. He said, I can't tell you what they are, but you need to experiment. And you'll find lots of sounds in that guitar you didn't know was there. I don't know how he knew that, but that was before we started the tiki-tiki and all those things, you know. So he was right. We kept trying and finding more techniques.
But Bob used to do it on the bass, that rundown, but then I put my heel of my hand on to make it kind of dull and not ring out. So we both really came up with that.
Actually, in Japan, in America, they say tiki-tiki, but over here they say teki-teki. You know.